Today, we're diving into the incredible story of an ancient emperor, a ruler who, after one of the bloodiest wars in history, had a change of heart so massive, it literally changed the world. His message is more than 2,000 years old, but you might be surprised by how relevant it still is. Okay, so let's start with something you might have seen a million times, especially if you've ever looked at Indian currency. It's the symbol of four lions standing back to back. We see it all the time. But have you ever really stopped and wondered, where did that come from? What's the story there? Well, their story doesn't begin in a modern mint with printing presses. Nope. It starts way, way back, over 2,300 years ago, to be exact, carved into a giant pillar of stone, a symbol of power for one of the most remarkable rulers the world has ever seen. So, to get the story behind these lions, we've got to travel back in time to the empire he ruled, the Mauryan Empire. This was India's first great empire, founded by his grandfather, and it was absolutely massive. And the Mauryans, they were a dynasty, which, just means that power was passed down through the same family. When one ruler died, their kid or another relative would take over the throne. So in this dynasty, there are three key players you need to know. First, you have the founder, Chandragupta Maurya. Then came his son, Bindusara. And finally, we get to the main character of our story, Bindusara's son, the grandson, Ashoka. And I want you to get a sense of just how huge this was. We're not talking about a small kingdom here. We're talking about a sprawling empire. An empire is a whole different ballgame. It's way larger, it needs way more resources, and you need huge armies to protect it and a ton of officials to run the whole thing. Now, when Ashoka comes into the picture, he is not the peaceful guy he's remembered as today. No way. He was a classic, ambitious emperor, totally focused on one thing, making the empire his grandfather started even bigger. He was a conqueror through and through. By the time Ashoka was in charge, the Mauryan Empire stretched across almost the entire Indian subcontinent. But there was this one last piece of the puzzle, one major kingdom on the east coast that was still independent: Kalinga. So what does Ashoka do? He decides to take Kalinga by force. And this one war, this single conquest, it was about to change absolutely everything, not just for the empire, but for Ashoka himself. This was the moment. And he won. Kalinga was conquered. But the price of that victory? It was just horrific. Over 100,000 people were killed. When Ashoka saw the battlefield, saw the death and destruction he'd caused, something inside him just shattered. He was completely horrified. And you don't have to take my word for it. We can hear it from Ashoka himself, from words he had carved into stone for everyone to see. He said the war filled him with sorrow, and then he made this incredible declaration: "I believe that winning people over through Dhamma is much better than conquering them through force." I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. How absolutely wild is that? A conquering king, at the very peak of his power, sees what he's done and just stops. He is, as far as we know, the only king in all of human history to give up conquest after winning a war. So he completely changes course. Instead of ruling with an iron fist, Ashoka decides he's going to rule through something new, a different path, something he called Dhamma. And this is really important. Dhamma wasn't a religion. It wasn't about worshiping a certain god or performing specific rituals. It was more like a universal moral code, a set of instructions for how to be a good person. And honestly, this was kind of genius from a political standpoint. In an empire with so many different beliefs, a shared moral code was the perfect way to bring everyone together peacefully. So what did this Dhamma actually mean for the average person? Well, it was all about these really practical, everyday things. Be kind to your servants and slaves. Respect your elders. Treat all living things with compassion. Be generous to monks and priests. It was a blueprint for a better society. And then there's this part, which, to me, is just mind-blowing for its time. He actually taught that it's wrong to praise your own religion by trashing someone else's. He was basically promoting religious tolerance and respect more than 2,000 years ago. And Ashoka wanted this message to last. He had his ideas carved onto giant rocks and pillars all across the empire. It's like he created the world's first massive public service announcement campaign, making sure his philosophy of peace would outlive him. And that legacy is powerful. In fact, India's very first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, put it perfectly. He said that Ashoka's messages still speak to us in a language we can understand, and we can still learn much from them. And that brings us right back to where we started, back to those lions. They aren't just a symbol of an old empire. They're a reminder of an emperor who chose peace over power, compassion over conquest. So the next time you see them, maybe ask yourself, in a world still full of conflict, what can a 2,300-year-old message about giving up war actually teach us today?